Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us on our joint committee hearing with the Committee on Energy, Economic Development, and Tourism, and our good friends from the Committee on Government Operations. It's 3 o'clock on this Wednesday afternoon, February 9th, in room 224. Before we begin, I have to announce that this meeting, including the audio and video of remote participants, is being streamed live on the YouTube. You will find links to viewing options for all Senate meetings on the live and on-demand video page of the legislature's website. So for your viewing pleasure, you can watch this hearing free all day, every day for years to come. In the unlikely event that we hit some technical turbulence and this hearing takes a terrible nosedive, the committee will convene, both committees will reconvene to discuss any outstanding business. A public notice will be posted on the legislature's website. And for those of you who are participating with us remotely, all testifier audio will be muted and video disabled until shortly before it is your turn to testify. With that said, we are on to our agenda. First item is Senate Bill 2077 relating to the Hawaii Tourism Authority. On our testifiers list, we have Kurt Cottrell from DLNR. Anybody from, oh, we got the director here.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Thank you very much, Suzanne Case, for Department of Land and Natural Resources. We stand on our written testimony, and I think HTA has a better idea of how this would work. We have appreciated our collaboration with HTA in recent years, and so we'll just stand on our testimony. We do note that there was one section we think could use a little clarification that's in our testimony. Thank you.
Thank you, Director, for joining us. Alan Carpenter, also from DLNR. Not sure if Alan is there.
I think I've got the DLNR folks. So
okay, so you're representing Kurt.
Just available for questions. Thanks.
Got it. Okay, Jonathan Johnson from State Foundation.
Aloha, chairs, vice chairs, members of the committee. State Foundation stands on our written comments relating to adding SFCA Executive Director as an ex officio member on HTA board. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Next to our next John DeFries from HTA.
Hello, Chair and Vice Chairs. HTA stands on our written testimony of support and will be here to answer any questions. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Oh, you're welcome. And that's all we have for live testimony. Any members have any questions of those who have joined us live? No? Okay, thank you. We're going to move on to our next bill, that is Senate Bill 2170, relating to tourism governance. On our testifiers list, we have John DeFries.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, we stand in support and let our testimony stand as is. I will be here to respond to any questions or comments. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. DeFries. Frank Haas?
Not present, Chair.
Oh, okay. That's all we have for live testimony. Any members have any questions for Mr. DeFries? No? Okay. We're going to go on to the third measure on our agenda. That is Senate Bill 2419. And this is regarding TAT for hosting platforms. On our testifiers list, first we have John DeFries.
Mr. Chair, once again, HTA stands by our written support. A written testimony of support, and we'll be here to answer any questions. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you for joining us, John. John DeFries is the only one who signed up for a live testimony. Members, any questions of Mr. DeFries? Okay, we are moving along. Thank you, Mr. DeFries. Next bill is Senate Bill 2483 relating to energy. On our testifiers list, we have Rick Rochelo from HNEI.
Good afternoon, chairs, co-chairs, members of the committee. Thank you. I stand on our testimony supporting the intent of this bill, and we offered some comments in our written testimony, and I will also be available for questions should there be any. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. We have Kirsten Baumgardt Turner from Energy Office. Kirsten.
Aloha, Chair Wakai and Chair Moriwaki, Vice Chairs Misalucha and Dela Cruz, and members of the committees. The Hawaii State Energy Office offered comments in our written testimony and appreciated the background to the bill regarding the importance of reducing carbon emissions. We noted a couple things that the net negative carbon statute applies to emissions from all energy sources. So HSEO recommended a modification that would address this. And we also appreciate the intent to ensure state policies that ensure short and long-term provisions of adequate, reasonably priced and dependable energy for Hawaii. So we also noted a recommended modification that would keep us in line with that. So we stand on that written testimony and stand by for questions.
Thank you, Kirsten. Mark Asano from Hawai'i Electric.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Just wanted to point out a couple of concerns in our testimony. One having to do with, related to potential cost impacts to prioritizing the dispatch of renewables over other sources of fuel. I think, as we pointed out in the testimony, that we support an analysis being done by HNI to first study those impacts. I also had a chance to look at HNEI's testimony. I think they raised good points related to new renewable firm units, potentially being capable of new firm units being also capable of, using multiple types of fuel. As well as the State Energy Office kind of on their points about decarbonization that should be broader than just specifically to the electric sector. And I'm here for any questions after. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Sandy Wong from Tahiri Power.
Not present, Chair.
Okay, no Sandy. And we have John Kawamoto.
So, aloha, my name is John Kawamoto, and I oppose this bill. Hawaii has adopted a renewable energy goal and a zero emissions goal. Since climate change is bearing down upon us so quickly, Hawaii should embrace a clean, renewable future. Unfortunately, this bill comes up.
Oh, Mr. Kawamoto, I don't know if your connection is
Because it
spotty.
applies to renewable energy, not clean energy.
Oh, he disappeared. Mr. Kawamoto, I'm sorry about the connection there, but all the members did get your written testimony. Oh, you're back.
Oh, I
Kawamoto?
thought I was always here.
No, you've always been there, but we got a stop action motion on your testimony. So to be honest, we didn't hear all of it. Would you like to summarize in 30 seconds what you might have, the highlights of your testimony?
Sure, thanks. Hawaii has adopted a clean energy goal and a renewable energy goal. So we should be heading toward clean renewable energy. But this bill only addresses renewable energy and not clean energy. They're not the same. So this bill is flawed, and that's why I oppose it. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Kawamoto. Members, any questions of those who are with us via Zoom?
I have.
Chair Moriwaki?
Yes, thanks, Chair. I would like to ask Dr. Rochlu some questions. Rick, are you there? Oh, there you are. Okay. So you mentioned that you'd like to change the terminology here to renewable capable versus renewable energy. What is the purpose of that change in adding renewable capable?
The justification is, if you look at some of these smaller, more flexible units that are out there, as the system, as there's more solar and wind going in the system or other variable energy, we are going to need some amount of fixed energy. It would be great if it is fueled by a renewable, clean fuel. At the same time, though, it may be, under some scenarios, we may be able to reduce our overall footprint, but need to be able to run those on a variety of fuels should those clean, renewable fuels not be available in the quantities that are needed. So it is not with an intent to burning more fossil fuel. Is an intent to be to reduce our fuel usage in other units in a more significant way that would result in an overall net saving. So it's just trying to maintain flexibility in what would be allowed with the goal of continually driving down the use of fossil fuels.
And in response to the concern raised by Mr. Kawamoto regarding whether renewable alone is getting us to clean energy, can you respond to that?
Each of the renewables has a greenhouse gas footprint associated with it. Part of that footprint is from the use, part of it is from the life cycle and either developing the product or the sourcing of the fuel. And so that needs to be part of the decision making. Each of the technologies, most of the technologies are better than any of the fossil fuels. So that's kind of a starting point, but they are not all equal. And so there's going to have to be a continuous look at what that greenhouse gas footprint in that decision making as we go forward with the net goal of obviously being renewable, but also reducing our greenhouse gas footprint. So I agree with that. That needs to be a consideration. Yes.
And finally, in terms of the appropriation here, for HNEI to evaluate the benefits and costs of dispatching renewable energy sources, you're saying that you don't need it, that you're already doing it, or there are other bills that would do it. Can you clarify your testimony on that?
The scope of the study in this particular bill seemed, in some ways, it was narrow. It was looking at costs and benefits of renewables. It wasn't really doing overall planning. There are other bills such as Senate Bill 2510, also the bill looking at development of a hydrogen plan for the state that I think are a more comprehensive look. And so it was kind of a redundant study in my opinion, and being done elsewhere. And
wait, 1 second. Wait, there seem to be like interference.
Senator Dela Cruz, can you mute yourself? Thank you.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Oh.
So it wasn't that a study to look at use of renewables isn't good, but we think it's already being done and it's already incorporated into other bills, and this did not add a lot to those studies to provide new direction.
But this is a study to look at the cost of various renewable fuels, or renewable energy sources. This study itself versus some of the other studies, and the other studies are in bills, not in progress. Is that correct?
Well, some are in progress. The costs are a constant part of the evaluation of what makes sense in terms of developing a plan. But those costs also are difficult to predict and are constantly changing. I know as an example, the solar and storage systems that are key part of our current deployment, or the utilities' current deployment, are at a much lower cost than they were several years ago. So the costs and benefits, in my opinion, is going to be a constantly changing metric that always needs to be considered in an ongoing basis, but it is part of the other planning, I believe, as well as the technical parts.
I think Senator De La Cruz, you had a question too.
Yeah. You sure you don't have another 50 questions before I ask mine?
No, I am done. I'll yield to you, Senator.
Only 20 more, Donovan.
Thank you. So I'm just wondering why not just use the word firm instead of this capable? Because that sounds like that's what you're describing, that we just need more firm energy.
Can you repeat the question? Firm instead of what?
The word capable.
Capable, renewable capable.
Firm Well, this was in specific response to language that said all systems had to be renewable. And in our opinion, there could be, under some circumstances, where we would need some amounts of I'll call it firm, flexible generation, that if a renewable fuel was not available for it at that time, it still may provide a net savings by allowing other systems to be operated more efficiently. And so it was getting a little bit in the weeds, but it was not arguing firm versus not firm. That was not the intent.
Okay, because I'm still trying to ascertain what's the minimum amount of firm that we need so that we can make sure that we provide the right incentives to achieve that.
In regard to firm, you know, and we address this a lot more in our testimony for Senate Bill 2510 later this week. It's our view that we are going to need rather substantial firm capacity. So that means you will need to have generating capacity that can be called on whenever needed, and it is not dependent on weather conditions, solar, wind, or ability to store energy. But if the system is properly designed, those systems may not have to be called upon very often. So they provide the reliability, they provide the backup, but there are likely lower cost opportunities to get the energy component. For example, by building out more solar, which at this time is lower cost than say the renewable fuels components would be. So in one case, you want to maximize the low cost energy, but the firm capacity then needs to be on the system to provide the reliability that the grid needs to ensure that if those variable resources are not there, that capacity can fill in the gap.
Okay, because that's where
so it's very important to distinguish between the energy component and the capacity component of that firm energy.
Okay, it's just that that's where I believe the state has to provide some types of incentives to achieve the firm component. If it's not as cost effective as, or it's not as cheap as solar and some of these other ones, then we have to help provide that just to ensure reliability.
I mean, that is obviously a policy decision to make, but it is our view that we will need substantial capacity and probably a reasonable amount of energy from those firm resources. You know, and what our models show, and it's not primarily focused on Oahu, and the other islands may be a little bit different, is somewhere around 20 to 30% of the energy would need to come from those firm resources if you didn't want there to be significant curtailment of the wind and solar, which would start to make those uneconomic. So it's our view we can get 65, 70%, assuming siting, community acceptance, a lot of other variables, but technically you can get to, you know, say for a round number, say 70% of the energy from those variable sources. But even under those operating conditions, although only 30% of the energy then would need to be firm, you'd have to have substantial capacity. At any instant in time, more than 30% may be coming from that firm resource. So it's a flexibility we need, but we will need, if we want to be 100% clean, based on currently available technology, additional firm resources. So that is correct.
Okay, thank you.
But I don't know that we know the specific number at this time yet. It's going to depend on the way those other systems evolve.
Okay, but at some point we have to prepare for worst case scenario. And so what's the minimum amount of firm to prepare for worst case scenario? I mean, you know, because of the force majeures, because of the, you know, there were about 3 times at least that the grid reliability was almost compromised because of shutdowns and managed shutdowns. We're just lucky that we haven't had a problem. And I think when we actually do, then the community is probably going to want more firm.
Yeah, and those issues we've had recently are probably a different issue than just having enough firm capacity on the grid. I mean, it's tied into the timing, but yes, there needs to be careful timing between the development of the new renewable firm power and the retirement of the existing HECO units. And that needs to be done in close coordination with the other variable generation as well. And what we have now is a little bit of a mismatch in that timing. We need to be careful that doesn't happen again.
Yeah, no, yeah, but that's the PUC's fault. So we just have to figure that how to work through that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any further questions? Rick, I just have two follow-up questions. You know, when Senator Moriwaki was talking to you about the necessity for putting capable in there, isn't a good example the Schofield units, the ones that can run on diesel, but can also take biofuels. So if we put capable in here, that will allow for that piece of machinery to operate, correct?
That was exactly the kinds of systems we were thinking about when we added that word to that phrase. If we had additional, as it looks, additional flexible units similar to Schofield, Campbell Industrial Park's peaking plan is somewhat similar. There have been other proposals, I think, around Pearl Harbor Hickam that would be similar. If those can be fired on a renewable clean fuel, great. But those systems as a backup could still allow further retirement and reduction of systems that are using larger amounts of fossil fuel than they would use. So the goal is not to not fire them on renewables, but they still may have benefit even if that fuel is not available in the short term or for some period of time.
But if we put in your language of capable, there could be a scenario where HECO, using Schofield as the example, will be able to just fire up their diesel generators because we gave them a little loophole here with capable. So it actually might backfire if we, to Senator De La Cruz's efforts on, going as fast and as much as we can for dispatchable to be renewable. By putting in capable, we allow HECO to fire up that biofuel / diesel plant and just go with diesel, correct?
Yes, but I guess my view would be there would have to be appropriate justification to do that. But there could be situations where using some amount of diesel in those units, if there wasn't enough biodiesel, would allow other systems to be turned down because they would give you capacity. So you may not even have to burn the diesel, but just to have the capability of doing it so you could depend on those units if you did need them, might allow you to save more fossil fuel other places.
Okay. And my follow-up question is, this bill has an appropriation of $100,000 for you to do this study, but from what your testimony is saying, you can do it without the $100,000, correct?
As you're aware, we do get an allocation from the barrel tax, and we have sufficient resources in that the way it is currently configured to do this study. Yes.
So the answer is yes. You don't need the 100,000.
Yes.
Okay.
We do not need the funds.
Got it. Members, any further questions? Okay, thank you, Mr. Rochelo. We're going to move on to Senate Bill 2590, and this is relating to energy efficiency. On our testifiers list, we have Kirsten Baumgardt Turner.
Aloha. That was a great discussion. I really appreciate it, and I look forward to more like that. And
we love energetic discussions here, Kirsten.
Yeah, we meet weekly with Rick, and it's always very fruitful. And we sometimes disagree, and then we all learn a great deal and really advance. So I appreciate that. I'm Kirsten Baumgardt Turner, Deputy Energy Officer. I'm standing in for Scott while he's in DC, trying to get us some of the infrastructure money coming this way. So I appreciate Chairs Wakai and Moriwaki and Vice Chairs Misalucha and De La Cruz and members of the committee the opportunity to weigh in and provide our comments on SB 2590. We appreciate the intent of the bill in requiring buildings to obtain and display energy efficiency scores and grades to incentivize reduced energy demand. We do note that these requirements, however, would be in addition to several other initiatives currently underway, many of which the Energy Office has been leading. The requirements of the new program would be in addition to several of these, including the Energy Star Portfolio Manager tool audits that are conducted as part of regular performance contracting. The new program may, without additional program implementation funding, divert, we're concerned, limited state resources from other existing related activities, including building industry awareness and training efforts, and the development and implementation that we work with industry on energy efficient building codes and appliance standards and other things focused on selecting and using improved materials and methods when buildings are designed and constructed. So without additional resources, it would also be difficult for us, excuse me, it would be difficult to do a satisfactory job of enforcement, which is called for in the bill. So we finally note that DBED is generally not an enforcement agency. We really appreciate the opportunity to offer these comments, and I stand by for questions. Mahalo.
Great. Thank you, Kirsten. Members, Kirsten is the only one who has signed up to testify. If members have any questions for her or the Office of Energy? Yep, Senator Rivera.
Hi, Kirsten.
Hi.
So owners of buildings would have to go out and go through this process, and I mean, they have to hire consultants and do analyses, and this would affect all the businesses or all the buildings identified. Is that correct?
As we understand it, yes, but there's a strong role for us to take this on in addition to the work that we're already doing. And so it would be, the rules and guidance are not clear to me of exactly how this would be rolled out. I think a lot of the work that would have to be done would be to upfront for us to work out the planning of the program and the guidelines and the rules.
And this would be privately owned buildings too. This is not just state or county owned things, correct?
Correct, as I understand it in the bill, the intent of the bill.
And is there any estimate on what kind of cost would be involved for each of these building owners to go do this?
We would have to analyze that.
And what if the building owner just didn't care? You know, they're like, I don't care if I'm not energy efficient. I just leave my windows open and I got airflow. I'm good. Why is that a state issue?
We do have goals in place, but we don't have enforcement of those. So these are good questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Sure. Members, any further questions?
I have a question, Chair.
Yep. Chair Moore.
Hi, Kirsten.
Hi.
Could you explain the relationship between HSEO and the Energy Office, the Hawai'i Energy Office, because they seem to be the ones that have been promoting energy efficiency, and whether they would have a role in this, or would it be your office that would do that? Hawai'i Energy.
Can you repeat the last part of time? Sorry,
so my understanding is, and they're still doing this, Hawai'i Energy has been promoting energy efficiency for several years, or I don't know how many years. So would it be your office or Hawai'i Energy that would be doing something like this, because their role is to promote energy efficiency, and in fact giving incentives for energy efficiency, and I thought they were also measuring progress in energy efficiency.
We work in collaboration with them, but the bill assigns this to DBED.
No, so I'm asking the question, has there been any discussion with Hawai'i Energy, since that is primarily their role, and how you might work with them should this bill pass?
No, we have not had the chance to talk with Hawai'i Energy about this in detail, but yes, we've reached out to them, and we do work with them now very closely on a variety of these initiatives that I've mentioned.
So this bill also has an appropriation, and I think they also have an appropriation. So that's a question on how would you, or what would the cost be to do the energy asset scoring of businesses should this bill pass?
I think that's a fair amount of our time and effort would have to go into trying to estimate what that cost would be. We have not had the opportunity to do that in the time that we've looked at the bill.
Okay. Thank you, Chair.
Sure, you're welcome. Members, any further questions? Kirsten, I just have one follow-up to Senator Revere's questions about this, the impact on small businesses. I'm looking at the penalties here, and a violation is $10,000, and then subsequent months there's a penalty of $250 a month. Is that kind of harsh for a business that might not have the financial ability to meet all of these grades?
It would, of course, depend on the financial situation of each company. But yes, I imagine there would be some greater impacts on smaller businesses. But our biggest concern is how would you enforce this? And so that would be a discussion that really would have to be quite detailed, as well as the very good points that Senator Moriwaki brought up. But the good news is that we're doing a lot of this work now, and we're doing it through incentives. And while the scorecard might be an incentive, we have many of these incentives in place, and we continue to work on them both with the legislature and with Hawai'i Energy and with the industry. So these are policy discussions that are ongoing, and we welcome further consideration. But on this one, it would require a great deal more discussion, I believe.
Thank you, Kirsten. Members, any further questions? If not, thank you, Kirsten. We're going to move on to the next bill. That is Senate Bill 2963 relating to energy efficiency. And on our testifiers list, we have Rick Grashalo, HNEI.
Good afternoon again, Senators. Thank you very much. We stand on our testimony. We agree with the intent of this bill. In summary, we do believe that the State Energy Office is the appropriate entity to collect this data. If asked, we would serve, but we do believe that they are the right organization to do that. And my understanding is that they already have very similar programs, if not already started in what they do. So with that, I will stand on my testimony and thank you for this opportunity to testify.
Thank you for joining us, Rick. Kirsten Baumgardt Turner from Energy Office.
Oh, I keep having trouble with my internet freezing. I apologize. It happens to work better at home than it does in the office. We are in support. Are we still on 2963? I want to make sure I'm in the right one.
Yep, we're on 2963.
Okay. Thank you. We are in support of the measure. We appreciate so all of the intent here, and we do have some modifications that we would recommend, which establishes the deadlines for this. One of the modifications that we would recommend are with regard to the objectives of the energy efficiency, cost control, and lowering energy bills and leading by example. We're working closely with Hawai'i Energy and, as I mentioned, different state agencies to assess all of the opportunities to reach the target goal of 25% reduction by 2025 from a 2005 baseline year. And we consistently do this. Considering all of that, we recommend a modification on page 6, line 15, to read that utility bills and energy usage data, the Hawaii State Energy Office be the one to do this, because as I mentioned, we've done all this before, and we really appreciate the fact that HNEI understands this task that we've been doing, and we work collaboratively with them, so they're well aware of what we do. Mahalo.
Thank you, Kirsten. Danielle Bass from the Planning Office of Planning.
Aloha chairs, vice chairs, and members of the committee. My name is Danielle Bass, State Sustainability Coordinator of the Office of Planning and Sustainable Development. In relation to this bill, we do support the intent of this measure. We offer some comments here. We strongly support green building management, sustainable development, and sustainable operations for Hawaii's state government buildings. We noted that there's some water efficiency language in this bill. And so in relation to that, we thought that it would be helpful to remind the State Senate that we do have two laws already in terms of sustainable development. First, our lead law, which is cited in our testimony, and secondly, which is often forgotten, is the requirement of the use of reclaimed water in 100% of state and county facilities, with the exception of drinking and potable water uses by the year December 31st, 2045. So that is one of our state statutory sustainability targets that we wanted to remind the Senate of the requirement to meet that goal in terms of when we're considering water efficiency. So I'm available for any questions. Mahalo.
Thank you, Danielle. Next on our testifiers list, we have Melissa Miyashiro from Blue Planet.
Good afternoon, chairs, vice chairs, and members of the committee. I'm Melissa Miyashiro with Blue Planet Foundation. Thank you so much for hearing this bill. Energy efficiency is often overlooked in our conversation about the transition to clean energy. If we hope to achieve a carbon negative economy by 2045, these are precisely the types of actions that we need to be taking. You will note in our testimony that we requested an amendment to increase the reduction goal to 30%. And that's reflective of the fact that the state is already at a 20% reduction over 2005 levels. So this would really unlock the deeper energy efficiency measures for state agencies. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Melissa. And we have John Kawamoto.
Aloha, my name is John Kawamoto. I hope I don't freeze up again. And if I do, you have my written testimony. I just want to summarize. I support the bill. Assuming that electrical generation achieves 100% clean, renewable energy, this bill helps move us toward this statewide goal. The state should lead the way. And for those reasons, I support the bill. Thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Great, thank you, Mr. Kawamoto. And your internet worked great that time. And I think that's all we have for our live testifiers on this measure. Members, any questions of those who have joined us via Zoom? No? Okay. We are going to move on to the last bill
Chairman?
on our, yes?
Mr. Chairman,
Oh, I see someone from Department of Transportation.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, please introduce yourself. Yes.
Mr. Chairman, Patrick McCain, Department of Transportation. Sorry, our testimony did go in late, I believe, but Chair Wakai, Chair Moriwaki, we would like to stand on our comments and thank you for the opportunity. Aloha.
Okay, thank you, Pat. I do have your late testimony from DOT about lead certification, and the dates are going to be a challenge for you. Got it.
Thank you, sir.
Sure. And I'm sorry, is there anybody else online that wants to testify on this measure? We're still on 2963. Okay, members, any questions of those who have joined us for 2963? Okay, now we're going to move on to the last bill on this agenda, that is Senate Bill 3229 relating to geothermal royalties. First on our testifiers list is Kirsten Baumgartner Turner.
It's frozen again. Can you hear me?
Yep, you're unfrozen.
Oh, good, great, thank you. We appreciate again the opportunity to testify on this. HSEO believes that geothermal energy can play a significant role in achieving our 100% renewable energy generation statewide. And we support incentives for its development. Royalties from geothermal development do play an important role in its regulation and the administration of state and county programs related to geothermal. We defer to the appropriate agencies, though, for comment on the fiscal, administrative, and regulatory impacts of this proposal. Thank you for allowing me to offer our comments.
Thank you, Kirsten. We have Cardi Chang from DLNR.
Hello, Chair Wakai Moriwaki, Vice Chairs Misalucha and Dela Cruz, and members of the committee. Cardi Chang on behalf of Chairperson Suzanne Case. I'm the Chief Engineer for the Engineering Division of DLNR. Unfortunately, the department respectfully opposes this measure, and you have a written testimony, but I do want to highlight some of the reasons why we oppose. This measure would result in a significant amount of funds that are currently collected by the state and shift those funds to the county. The department has a statutory obligation to oversee and manage the safe exploration and use of the geothermal resource as it is held in public trust. The department is tasked with regulatory duties to manage the use of the geothermal resource through issuance of mining leases and issuance of permits for geothermal well drilling. The current revenue from royalties barely cover the cost to run the geothermal program. For the last 14 years, the royalties collected by the department is roughly equal to the expenditures of the geothermal program. Therefore, this measure would result in a shortfall of funds for critical DLNR programs, particularly the geothermal mineral resources program, therefore impacting the department's ability to oversee well drilling operations and management of this important resource. I'm available for questions. We also have others from the department available as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Cardi. James Kurata from DLNR.
I think he's just backing me up.
Oh, no, I see. Oh, James, did you want to say something? I can see you.
We stand on our written testimony. Thank you.
Sure, thank you for joining us. Ian Hirokawa, also from DLNR. See, back up to you as well.
Yes, I'm backing up. Thank you.
Wow, you guys should start a band already. You got so much backup there, Cardi. So we got Ian there from DLNR. That's all we have for live testimony. Members, any questions of those who have joined us online?
I do.
Sure,
Cardi or the backup team. You mentioned that this will reduce the amount that DLNR gets, but can you just clarify what DLNR uses the monies for and what the county is doing with, if any, that if they got some of these funds? Would you be able to answer that so that we can see? This is a big, hefty reduction. So can you let us know what you do?
Okay. So our legal authority is Chapter 182. And I don't want to speak for the county and what they do with their 30%, but I can speak to what we do with our 50% share pursuant to our duties under Chapter 182. So essentially, Chapter 182 charges the department with the disposition and regulation of the mineral resource. And that includes issuing mining leases, management of the resource. So when we talk about geothermal is just one of the many minerals that the state has to manage. And as you know, minerals are reserved to the state and is held in public trust. So another part of management of the minerals, which includes geothermal, is also to make sure that the developer drills wells in a safe manner. So we have a duty and obligation to oversee the operations of the well drilling and also other aspects of the well drilling operations. For example, the Board of Land and Natural Resources has to issue an operations plan or approve an operations plan of a developer. They have to approve the method of royalties, and they also have to approve the well drilling of the geothermal wells, as well as the mining leases and other dispositions related to mineral uses or the mining of the minerals.
So
I would defer to the county as far as your question is what they use their 30% for, because I don't want to speak on their behalf.
So if this bill passes with this, like half of what you're getting, from 30 to now 60%, would that reduce the work that you're doing, or how would you then support the work that you have to do in terms of these mining leases and exploration of geothermal and other minerals?
Yeah. No, well, your first question, will it reduce the work? No. We will still have the same duties under the statute. And if the intent of this bill is to explore and develop more resource, we would anticipate that we would need more resources, not less resources. So this is actually kind of ironic that something to enhance geothermal is really depleting funds that actually regulate the safe use of the resources. So the money that we have now that we get from the royalties It varies a lot, and it gets deposited into the Special Land Development Fund, which funds the entire mineral resource program. The mineral resource program, which includes the geothermal, does not receive any general funds. It's basically self-sufficient through special funds received by the department. So does that answer your question? No,
Right, so about how much do you receive in a year?
I think better to illustrate because of the variance. You know, there are certain years PGV was not producing because of the lava flow. So I can give you a cumulative, and I can give you an average annual. And I'll take it back 14 years for the reasons of, in fiscal year 8, that was when the geothermal program was established. So it's within the last 14 years, cumulative through fiscal year 21, the 50% share of royalties was $11,400,463. The amount we expended to run the geothermal program for those 14 years, same period, was $10,443,390 based on our calculations. So essentially it's a wash when you look at that. If you want an average annual, when you take all the 14 years divided, the royalties collected on an average annual basis is $814,318. And the average annual expenditures for that same period is $745,956. So as you can see, any cuts to the 50% share that comes to the state will have a significant impact on the program.
So you would be coming to us for the money.
If I may add to Cardi's testimony, what Cardi's testimony doesn't address is all of the numerous meetings Cardi's engineering division and land division had to sit down with project proponents to discuss the complexities of the rules on getting regulatory approval for the drilling, as well as the leasing side, which is separate from our typical land management side. So we have spent a lot of hours with project proponents, but because geothermal sometimes for some communities tends to be controversial, the project proponents gets discouraged and they kind of drop out. So that's kind of what we're basically have with PGV right now. I'm sorry, I'm Russell Tuji from the land division. Thank you.
So Russell or Cardi, in terms of this bill, they're saying the counties haven't been doing enough, I guess. And so if we put more money to the counties, we can develop the geothermal resources or explore more of the resources. But you guys do all that work, right? The exploratory it's on county land, but they don't do the exploration. You guys do that and regulate.
No, we don't really explore. You know, when you talk about exploration, we don't go out and start drilling wells to see potential. We're more of a regulated role. So the developer would do the exploration, or some other entity, maybe the University of Hawaii. And if they
oversee the development and exploration, I mean, you guys regulate them.
Regulate, yeah.
We have also, Senator, at the request of some researchers, Dr. Don Thomas, for example, funded a portion of his research projects for searching out geothermal. So, but not be the sole source of funding. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Chair.
Members, any further questions? Mr. Tsuji and Carla, I have a couple of questions. So if I heard you correctly, Carla, you said over 14 years, you've accumulated $11 million. So that comes out to an average of $785,000 a year that you're collecting. And from your testimony, you're saying that this amount of money pays for a lot of people in this mineral resource area, but a lot of other people outside of it as well. State parks, Division of Forestry. So this pot of money actually does way more than just looking over all of the mineral resources and regulating what's going on in this area, correct?
Yeah, that is correct. I was kind of comparing the royalties just against the geothermal program. However, the royalties, if there's in excess, it still is held by the department for those other critical programs like parks, forestry and wildlife, and other programs by the department. And that Russell can talk a little bit about those critical programs as well.
So I understand that how critical it is for parks and forestry and stuff, but is it correct and right to be telling the geothermal people that their funds go to pay for all of these other non-geothermal related activities?
Well, I think the way the law is written, the geothermal royalties are deposited into the Special Land Development Fund. And how it's dispersed from that point forward, the legislature actually decided that the geothermal program was to be funded with special funds versus general funds. So whether that's a one-for-one, this geothermal royalty pays for a geothermal person versus the legislative intent was to fund the geothermal program with department special funds, I think that's a policy decision.
Right, but essentially what's happening here is that Puna Geothermal is paying for all kinds of other DLNR positions and missions that have nothing to do with geothermal.
Only if, Senator, there is an excess. I mean, I think that's why Carty's point in his testimony was over the 14-year period, it looked like the revenues in kind of matches the revenues out for the geothermal, just his group of engineers and within the engineering division. If I understood Carty, isn't that correct?
That is correct, yeah.
Okay.
So Chair, so to clarify with Carty, that amount, the 700,000 versus the 800,000 per year average, that is just for the geothermal expenses. I think that is the clarification we need what Chair Wakai is talking about. You're not paying
just the geothermal regulatory staff.
It's all just for geothermal.
Geothermal regulatory staff, 745 expenditures, 814 collected.
So this amount, if we reduced it, it would put you in the red then. So you need all of this, or is there a part of this that you don't need?
We need all of it.
And it's also the land division it would handle the leasing side, which is another complexity. Unfortunately, there hasn't been any new leases, but it can get pretty complex in the rules and regulations on this type of leasing.
Regarding geothermal.
Yes. Geothermal is separate from our typical type of leases.
For the leases, is it done by the amount of output of geothermal, or is it based on just square footage? How do you guys charge them?
You want to take that, Russell?
It's a real complex formula. I mean, it ends up being, though, I believe, Carty, correct me if I'm wrong, it almost ends up being a percentage of the energy.
Okay. So let me try to explain. The lease has different components. One is the current lease at PGV is actually on private land. So essentially, the surface disposition is not where the state comes involved. The disposition of the state's involvement is what's below the ground, the mining rights. So that's one component of the mining lease, is how much you pay to mine the state resource. So now you're talking about the royalty. So the royalty is based on a formula. And that formula is that the royalty dollar amount is based on a certain royalty rate times the resource value. So, okay, what is the rate? The rate is set in administrative rules, no less than 10%, no greater than 20%. In the early 80s, that rate was established as 10%. Okay, so now what is the other component of the equation? How do you determine resource value? The resource value was also determined by the board by a method called the Netback Method. So what is the Netback Method? So what the Netback Method is, it calculates the resource value by, you look at the electricity revenues that PGV gets from the sale of electricity.
Carly, that's okay. I mean, you and I can have this conversation offline.
Okay.
But when was the last time that the rates have been adjusted, both for the output as well as all of the complexity? I mean, have we changed it in 14 years, whatever the rate is?
The rate has been the same from 1981, when the mining lease is 10% of the resource value.
I think, though, if we were to value it today, it might be, I'm not sure, but current values, Carty, correct me if I'm wrong, would be actually lower for these renewables, because wasn't it set on the alternative source back in 80s, which is at a higher rate than today?
The current PPA that they have with PGV has, it allows them to produce up to 38 megawatts of power. And I think eight megawatts of that is dispatchable currently. They're trying to increase that amount. So that current PPA is based on, and we're not party to that, the state is not party to that, but it's based on the value of oil. So when oil prices go up, we get more royalties. So that's sort of how that PPA was negotiated under that, between HELCO or HECO and PGV at the time.
Okay. Sorry, I have one final question. In your testimony, Carly, you mentioned that 20% goes to OHA. So when you're telling Senator Moriwaki about you getting 50%, the state actually gets 70%, but 50 to you, and then 20% to OHA, correct?
Yeah, that is correct. Yeah, we're talking about the department getting 50%.
Right. So where is it in statute that OHA gets that? Because when I look at the statute, it only talks about the state currently getting 60%, and then the county is getting the difference. Where is the OHA?
Is that under that 5? What is that, Russell? 5
Act 178. If it's seated, yeah. Senator, they get their
public lands.
They get their. They take first. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And county gets the 30, and we end up with the 50 right now.
Okay, members, any further questions of Tila and our folks? Okay, we're going to take a brief recess before taking the vote. Thank you for your patience. We're reconvening the joint committees on energy, economic development, and tourism, and our good friends from the Committee on Government Operations. Our 3 o'clock agenda is now ready for votes. On Senate Bill 2077 relating to the Hawaii Tourism Authority, all the testimony was in support, but we want to make one change to this measure on page 16, line 16. We're going to change shall to may. Because if we have shall, then that means the agencies are obligated to render services to HTA. We want to have some flexibility that they may provide those services. So recommendations to change, have that particular amendment to Senate Bill 2077. Any discussion? If not, Senator Misalucha, I vote yes.
Okay, I get the.
Do you have
Or I don't have the voting sheets with me. Sorry about that, but I do vote yes to chair.
All right.
Okay, our capable Senator Revere will take the vote. Senator Revere, I vote yes.
Okay, we're on SB 2077. Chair's recommendation passed with amendments. Chair votes aye. Vice Chair votes aye. Senator Lee?
Aye.
I vote aye. Senator Favela?
I thought he was on.
Senator Favela?
Senator Favela, we're voting on SB 2077, passed with amendments.
Reservations.
Okay, reservations. Chair, your recommendations adopted.
Government Operations Committee, same recommendation as SB 2077.
Senate Bill 2612 with amendments to remove the requirement.
Oh, you have to mute yourself.
Yeah, daughter, mute yourself.
Okay, thank you.
At the same time.
Okay. Okay, Chair votes aye. Vice Chair Dela Cruz.
Aye.
Senator Chang, is Senator Chang on? Excused. Senator Gabbard
Aye.
and Senator Favela.
Yeah.
Reservations? Oh, what?
Oh, sorry, aye.
Aye. Okay, aye. Okay. Okay.
Sorry, WR.
Oh, that's what I thought. You could change your mind.
Is that your final answer?
Okay, recommendation adopted.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Senate Bill 2170 relating to tourism governance. This is a study to see if there might be a better model for our efforts to better manage tourism.
Yeah.
The chairs have confirmed we'd like to move this measure out with a couple of amendments. One, we're going to take out an appropriation. LRB says they can do this for free. And also take out any language that talks about procurement exemptions as well as language regarding contracting out of services. So those are the changes for amendments recommended. Any discussion? If not, Senator Revere, I vote yes.
Okay, the EET committee, all members being present, is anyone voting with reservations or in opposition? Seeing all in favor, recommendation adopted, Chair.
Thank you.
Same recommendation for SB 2170 for the Government Operations Committee. Chair votes aye. All members, oh, no. Okay, Senator Dela Cruz,
Aye.
Senator Chang excused, Senator Gabbard,
Aye.
Senator Favela.
Aye.
Recommendation adopted. Thank you.
Thank you. On Senate Bill 2419, this is relating to transit accommodation hosting platforms, allows particularly Maui County and those, actually everybody except Oahu County, Honolulu County, to better regulate the hosting platforms for these short-term vacation rentals. Really like this bill. I'd like to move this bill out as is. Any discussion? If not, Senator Revere, I vote yes.
Okay, members, SB 2419, Chair's recommendation pass unamended. All members being present, is anyone voting with reservations or in opposition? Seeing none, all in favor, adopted, Chair.
Thank you.
Government Operations Committee for Senate Bill 2419. Same recommendation with all present members present. Anyone with reservations? Anyone opposition? Okay, measure adopted.
Thank you. We're going to move on to Senate Bill 2483 relating to energy. This is the bill about dispatchable energy and trying to move HECO to use renewable energy before they default to using fossil fuels. Make one amendment, that is to take out any appropriation for this measure. And that's the only, I'm sorry.
Can you make sure that the dollar amount is in it and that just mention that they're going to take it out of their barrel tax money?
Oh, okay. So you want to keep the appropriation in, but they're going to pay for it with barrel tax.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, then we're going to pass it as is then. So that's the recommendation, to pass this measure out as is.
No, because you have to put that's coming from the barrel tax, yeah?
Yeah, exactly.
You have to amend it.
But they only get funding through the barrel tax. Oh, no, sorry. They get
No,
federal
no, because
funding.
it would be a separate appropriation otherwise, yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. You're right. They're not 100% barrel tax funded. Okay. So the recommendation is to say that that $100,000 appropriation is paid for by the barrel tax. Any discussion? If not, Senator Revere, I vote yes.
Oh, Chair, what about the firm?
Oh, the firm, we're going to talk about that on Friday.
Okay,
Senator
thank you,
Favela,
Chair.
Senate Bill 2510. Yep. I'm sorry, so we're wait, back to 2483. Sorry, got thrown off. 2483 to pass a measure with the amendment that's saying that that $100,000 need for the study is going to come out of the barrel tax, and I vote yes.
All right, Chair votes aye. Vice Chair?
Aye.
Okay, Senator Lee?
Aye.
I vote aye. Senator Favela?
Aye.
Thank you, Chair. Adopted.
Thank you.
Same recommendation for Government Operations Committee on Senate Bill 2483, passed with amendments. All members present, any reservations, any opposition? Chang excused. Huh? Chang excused. And Chang is excused, yeah. Okay, recommendation is adopted.
Okay. On Senate Bill 2590 relating to energy efficiency, we heard from the State Energy Office that enforcement is going to be a problem, and some of the penalties here are really, really troublesome for a smaller business that can't meet the grade. So recommendation from both chairs is to defer measure on this bill. We're going to move on to the next one. That is bill is 2963, Senate Bill 2963. relating to energy efficiency for state buildings. We're going to make a number of amendments to this bill. We're going to move water management from the Hawaii State Energy Office to the Planning and Sustainability Development area, and we're going to provide the opportunity for positions, and Senator De La Cruz can determine how many and what amounts. We're going to allow for UH's or take into account UH's recommendation on page 6, line 16, to change Natural Energy Institute to the State Energy Office, since the State Energy Office already collects this data, and both HNEI and the State Energy Office were open and supportive of that change. And also the dates to do all of these wonderful things is a little bit compressed. So we're going to actually go and give the state and DAGs in particular some breathing room to get to these laudable goals. So on the first recommendation, page 5, line 3, we're going to change 2023 to 2028. I think that's enough time to get everything lined up. And also there's a second deadline on page 5, line 6. We're going to change 2025 to 2030. So move everything out to 5 years. And I think that is ample time for the state to get all of its buildings energy efficient and up to grade, and also make some technical non-substantive amendments. Any discussion? If not, Senator Rivera, I vote yes.
Okay, committee, this is SB 2963, passed with amendments. Chair votes aye of all members being present still. Anyone with reservations or in opposition? Seeing none, your measure is adopted, Chair.
Thank you.
Government Operations Committee members on Senate Bill 2963. All members except Senator Chang is excused. Any opposition? Any reservations? This measure is adopted. Mahalo.
And on the last bill on this agenda, that is Senate Bill 3229, we want to have a little bit more time to do some research to kind of understand what the counties currently do with their proceeds from geothermal royalties, and also kind of get a better understanding of how exactly the state leases and gets monies into the Special Land Development Fund. So if you don't mind, members, I'll get back to you on both those issues and get some clarity, and ask that we defer decision making, at least for EET, to Monday, February 14th at 3:30 here in this room 224. And Senator Moriwaki, is your committee going to join us at the same time?
Yes.
Okay, so
It will be there.
All righty. We will both be here in this room on to decide on Senate Bill 3229 on Monday at 3:30 in room 224. No other business?
Mahalo.
Yep, we are adjourned. Aloha.